We are going global in this episode. Well, not me, the topic. I sat down with Christina, founder of Chandler Educational Consulting, to talk about how her independent consultancy helped guide students from the US and Latin America to navigate their journeys to Australia, or the other way around. I think at this point in world history, when the LGBT plus community are in very difficult situation, for example in the US, Australia may be a good option. Now, to clarify, this is not about immigration, but about building life experience and finding yourself while you're not tied down to many things like people my age are. Particularly for someone from the LGBT plus communities, it's important to explore options with an ally like Christina. This is a fascinating discussion because there are not many independent consultants in Australia that works that way. They are in this neutral space that is about working with the students and adding value to the higher ed organizations. Well, she describes better. Here's the episode. How are you today, Christina?
I'm good. Thank you.
Well, thanks for hosting me in your office here. But can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What do you do and how did you get there?
Sure. And thank you again for having me on your podcast. I'm really excited to be here and I really appreciate this opportunity. So my business is an educational consulting business called Chandler Educational Consulting. And I started up about a year ago, just getting a business going after years and years of experience working with students. And I thought this would be a great way to kind of balance out my life and do something that I really think is important.
Well, I want to cast your mind back a little bit further and like your origin story. How did one get into that space and got to here?
That's a great question. And the road is long and winding. I've spent about 25 years in the field of international education, starting out as a teacher, working a lot of different industries in government offices, in university recruitment. And so I've done a little bit of everything along the way. But one of the things that I've always found is I really like working with the students, whether it's in the classroom or in a presentation or advising settings. I really enjoy working directly with the students. And I think that's important because the students really are at the heart of it all. So after spending some time working in universities, doing university recruitment here in Australia, I found that it wasn't really where I wanted to be. It wasn't the way I wanted to do it. And I didn't feel like it was really serving the international student market the way that I could serve it. So I think with many small businesses, you always think, I can do this better. I know a new way to do it. And that's kind of where I went with it. I've always wanted to do my own business and I had the opportunity. So I started planning a few years ago and finally just set out on my own and got started.
There you go. Look, I mean, I think one of the amazing things and what I really enjoy doing this podcast is meeting people that forge their own paths. And this is this unique space that you're carving out for yourself. I think it's really admirable. Now, can you tell us a little bit, because like international education, that's a lot of space. Are there any particular continents or spaces that Chandler Education Consulting do?
Sure. When I started really looking at what the market would be, I wanted to work specifically with the international secondary schools around the world. So there are many international schools all over the world, and wherever you go, you'll find, for example, some that I've worked with in the past, you'll find an International School of Beijing, or the International School of Doha, or the International School of, you name it, whatever city. We have international schools, American schools, British schools, German schools, French schools. What's unique about them is that they have a very diverse international population. So the students might be children of diplomats or business people or missionaries or any type of person working in a foreign country. And they usually have a school counselor that helps the students figure out where to go next, if they're going to go on to university or get into a job. Some of those schools have one counselor or several counselors, and some of them have no counselors. But it is, at least for Australian universities, it is a bit of an untapped market. So we don't typically go out to those schools and go recruiting in those international schools. Maybe because they typically have a very good school counseling program there. But I started looking around at the markets, and I started thinking about how we can bring more international students here to Australia, but also help international students worldwide go to universities anywhere in the world. Here in Australia, our big recruitment markets tend to be in Asia. We tend to recruit a lot from India, China, Southeast Asia, and those markets. And I thought those are probably not going to be easy for me to break into as a solo business and a new business. So I have focused my efforts a little bit more on Europe, Latin America, and North America.
This is such an interesting thing because there are like counselors at high schools, and then all these different countries that they will probably have a very different system in there. What is one of the biggest misconceptions about your area of work that you would like to break?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked me that. There's a huge difference between an independent consultant like myself and a commercial agent. And the misconception is that independent educational consultants and education agents are the same thing, and we're very different.
How?
Hey, editing Arthur here. Now, Christina have recorded a really good, proper explanation to what independent consultants and an hired agent is. Anyway, take it away, Christina.
So the big difference between independent educational consultants like myself and education agents is really that education agents are very well known here in Australia. Most universities recruit their students through these what we call commission-based agents, where the agent and the university have a contract. The agent is going to send a certain number of students per year to the university. The agent earns their money is by sending student applications and enrolling students at the Australian universities. Independent educational consultants work in a different model. There are very few of us here in Australia. We're not very well known. And we work directly for the family, directly for the student. So we're actually paid by the family, and we'll work with the student to find the best fit for their higher education needs. So that student might need an English program or a diploma course or bachelor's, master's, PhD. We will work directly with that student, and we'll look at all the university options in Australia to find the best fit for them. We are then paid by the family or by the student directly. So we don't receive any commission, and we don't have any contracts with universities. So when I work with a student for Australian universities, I tell them up front, you have all 42 university options at your disposal, as well as any of the pathway providers. And we're going to work together to find which one is really the best match for you, which one really suits your needs. I will not direct a student towards any particular university, nor will I direct them away from a university, as long as it's a good fit for the student. So I think that's a really big difference to understand, is that the independent consultants are a counselor or an advisor to the student, working directly for that student. Whereas the education agent holds a contract with a number of universities, and they receive a commission from the university for every student who enrolls. So the agents have perhaps a more limited scope of universities, but they also have more of perhaps a business mindset than the independent consultant.
Both areas are very respectable, but what you are doing
Absolutely.
is very customized to particular need of the student, and you get to know them individually. That also remind me of another episode that I did. Shout out to Simon from Pink Flamingo Home Loan, because as a mortgage broker, that he can work with many banks, but compared to the mortgage consultant in a bank, they are tied to that particular bank. So the options are a little bit thinner.
Exactly.
So in a way, what you do is you can actually bring in a lot of options based on that conversations that you have with that initial meeting that you have with the student and the family. Interesting.
Exactly.
I'm very glad that I asked that. All right. Christina, you mentioned about counselors. How that work? Because it's been a while since I was in school.
Great. Good question. So a lot of international schools have maybe one counselor or two counselors that help guide the students towards what they're going to do after graduation. And they might be looking at university options, or they might be looking at going to work, or many other things. Those school counselors usually have a wide range of training in the university options around the world. So it's most common for international schools to be looking towards sort of US, Canada, UK, and a little bit of Europe. It's not common to have training about Australia and New Zealand because we're a little bit lesser known. Until a few years ago, we weren't really on the radar so much. So for those schools that only have one counselor, they have a small team, or they need a bit of training, or for international schools who don't have a full-time counselor on staff, one of the things that I've offered through my services is to do either counselor training or remote counseling. And remote counseling is a great opportunity for smaller international schools or schools without a full counseling staff. So I can be here in Australia, I can fly out once or twice a year if necessary, but I can work online. We're all very good at Zoom and online. So I can work online with a school to provide my services as a counselor to help them specifically with Australia, but also with other countries. If they have no counselor on staff and they need somebody to help target different countries around the world, US, Australia, Europe, I can help with that as a counselor. And that helps the school because it's a little bit lower cost to the school. They don't have a full-time person there at the school. They don't have to provide a lot of those extra benefits, but they pay for my services for a fixed amount of time for a semester or a school year.
It's actually a very, very important part because many, we all know the economy is not doing so well. And I think what you're doing is complementing what they already got. You're not competing with their counselor, but then they're more like, so for the counselors or schools that want to attend these workshops or work with you to talk about Australia and many other countries, do they fill in a form or send you an email on your website?
They can reach out to me through the website. So they can email me, Christina at chandlereducationalconsulting.com. And just let me know that the school is interested in either a counselor workshop or some training or in having remote counseling services. And we just start that discussion. We do a quick Zoom call to figure out what they need, and we go from there.
Well, all right. I am going to ask the question on behalf of them.
Okay.
Is the first meeting complimentary?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good.
The introductory meeting is always free.
Hey, I'm just checking. I'm just checking for them. And I think it's about finding out more.
Yeah.
It's about finding out more what option they have, and you're offering a really interesting service that enhance what they got, and then they can talk to you about it.
I think so too.
There you go. We need to touch on the topic about the community that this podcast is dedicated to, the LGBT plus community, because as we've been talking about US and Australia, it's no secret 2025 have not been the friendliest year for our LGBT plus communities, brothers and sisters in the US. what would be your message of them to, if should they want to explore? What if they want to see, if they want to come to Australia? What would be your message to them?
I would go back to one of the first things that I found about Australia, that this is a very welcoming country. It's also very relaxed. And people aren't so much interested in who you love and what you wear and your identity. That's not the first thing that people ask. I get asked all the time about my accent, where I'm originally from. But it's such a welcoming culture, and such a real laid back lifestyle here, that we have every type of student on university campuses, and it's really well accepted. So there are very accepting communities in the university campuses, and I think, I've seen students of every different size, shape, color, origin, lifestyle, and everybody blends in. Everybody makes friends, and it doesn't matter if you want to wear dresses to school, if you want to paint your nails, if you want to have piercings, if you want to have tattoos, if you want to dye your hair all different colors. It doesn't really matter. You're still an individual. You are who you are, and there isn't a big issue with it on campus.
Well, and the other thing that is, it's true that there's bigots everywhere, but there are really clear effort even from the Australian media that we celebrate allyship.
Yes.
We stand up and we speak out for our friends, and not only people from within the community. There are media campaigns that if you see something wrong, say on a bus, you voice it out. And I think something little as that actually goes into the mindset building of young people and how they interact with other people with respect, with understanding. And I think for me, during my school years, I was in quite a conservative neighborhood, but then the LGBT plus spaces in the uni that I was in was actually the positive part of my life in uni, because I made new friends and also interact with people. The thing is, the best way to put it is, at that time, I figured out what I don't want, like as in people that I don't want to hang out with. But then the thing is, you also need to feel safe to do that.
Right.
It's not like someone's really going to physically hurt you or something like that just because you look a little bit different in class or something like that. So I think that's something very important to consider.
I think that's a really good message, that the universities here, the media, the government, many communities here really try to be inclusive. They try not to make people feel left out. And that goes for so many different elements of our communities, whether it's the different abilities, disabilities, immigration, so many different areas of life here try to be inclusive. And we find that on our university campuses as well.
A little bit earlier, we mentioned about choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
And I think it's safe to say that there are more safer options to choose your adventure with in Australia compared to some of the countries that we talked about already. Unfortunately, it's very unfortunate that the world is going to that direction. But I think what you're offering is something very special. And the thing is, I don't think Australia and New Zealand have been very popular in like school counselors' radar in the US, for example.
That's right.
Never really a first choice. I wonder why.
I think Australia is not yet known as an opportunity for higher education. And I think people don't know enough about this country and what a great opportunity there is here. So I would say to any student that's sort of questioning whether or not they should go to the US at this point, or looking for some better opportunities where they're going to feel safe and welcomed and they're going to have a great experience studying at university, I would say look at Australia. Consider coming here for your university studies.
Speaking of that, your website, you actually have quite a nice selection of resources that people can look at. they are include article about different major cities in Australia and in the US. And also there are some really interesting comparison fun facts about the two countries. Well, for those who are interested to find out more, and as you said, find out more about it, how are they going to find it?
The website is Chandler Educational Consulting, all one word. And you're right, those resources include a lot of locations that you might want to look into, and there are more coming soon. So I'm working on a few more locations. The fun facts really help to kind of navigate the differences between American and Australian vocabulary or systems. There is also a Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram connection there. So you can find all of those on my website as well. And you can reach out and contact me at the same website on Chandler Educational Consulting.
I'm going to put all the contact info underneath the show notes. When there's a gap in the market, the first adapter will take charge and make things happen. In Christina's case, she seized a neutral space between many stakeholders and carved her own niche and started the business. We can learn from her that it is about starting something with what you know and love. Your expertise and passion can be the foundation of a meaningful business. I guess in Christina's case, she's forging her own path while helping others to forge theirs. Unlike agents in the higher ed space, Christina chose to work directly for students and families. Not only does it mean she's positioned away from the majority of the market, but it also means she can provide a transparent and user-first approach to build long-term credibility. Now, transparency can come in different forms, and hers is about offering value upfront, which works well in my opinion because she's a very direct person, so it's a great match with her personality. At the beginning of the episode, I said we're going global, and Christina has decades of experience to back it up. But I like that she focused on the niche set of targets and built from there. Now, I wouldn't be the first marketer to say that when we ask our clients what do we want our target market to be, they would often say everyone, in not only spread your budget thin, but also pulls you away from giving you the opportunity to add value, focus on our values and our clients and how it works together. And that's overall could be seen as a niche that bigger operations cannot do. Let's not skip the fact that sometimes when you're growing up, spending your younger years in a space where you don't quite feel that you belong, or want to start a business because the workspaces that you were in haven't felt quite a good fit to yourself. It happens to many people, believe it or not, and I hope you'll take inspiration from Christina and take a moment and see how you can forge your own paths. If it happens to be in Australia, yay! Christina will be back in episode 5. Meanwhile, take care of yourself, and take care of each other. Get Chatty podcast is produced by me, Arthur, the Chatty curator. I hope you enjoyed this episode, learn something new, or pick up something helpful to realize your aspirations. The podcast guests are making time and appeared in kind, so please consider supporting the podcast by supporting them. Head over to their socials and website on the show note, like or share on social media, or tag a friend about it. Thanks for your company.